Hi, Krystle. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you and share us your stories and your journey. So, can you introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. So my name is Krystle DiCristofalo, and I am the co-founder and CEO of My IB Education, the leading college counseling and academic consulting company. And we have acceptance rates for our students to top colleges like the Ivy Leagues and Stanford that are more than twice as high as our next closest competitors. And the reason for this is really because of the background and expertise that I and my team members bring to the company. I personally come from a little bit of an unorthodox educational background. I was homeschooled by my mother and co-founder all the way through to seventh grade when I started at the Stanford University Online High School, which was fully virtual. And I went there until 12th grade, which I later graduated from Columbia University, actually in 3 years instead of four with Latin honors because I was focusing on building my IB education and working with my clients. And so while I was there, they nominated me for the Rhodes Scholarship, the oldest and most prestigious postgraduate fellowship in the world, on behalf of the work that I was doing with my students and the approach that I was taking to really revolutionize college counseling. We work with people from all sorts of different backgrounds, all over the US, across Europe, Asia, South America, Africa, all the different parts of the world that you can imagine. And it is such a blessing and a privilege to be able to work with some of the smartest kids out there. We work with gifted kids, kids from homeschooled backgrounds, public or private schooled kids, any kind of sector or demographic that you can imagine. And we get them into their dream schools and help them make their dreams come true. And I just love doing it every single day.
Yeah, that must be a pleasure to be able to tutor kids, and then get them to one of the top schools from all over the world. So,
Absolutely.
you said that you were homeschooled, but how did your educational journey begin?
So, when my twin sister and I were 6 years old, my mom had us tested, and we found out that we were what is called profoundly gifted. And she actually pulled us out of school after the first week of kindergarten to homeschool us to give us more of a challenge and really personalize our education to our needs. We ended up doing things like accelerating 3 years of math in 1 year and being able to really differentiate our classes and have a wonderful educational experience. And it was all because she found out that the schools in our area could not meet our needs. We actually went around to different, even private schools, and they said that we would not be well served because they couldn't accelerate us enough and they couldn't give us the kind of structure that would be necessary to support our learning since we were very advanced and just needed more of an unstructured environment. So homeschooling was fantastic for that. And then in seventh grade, we found out about the Stanford University Online High School and started there. That is the top online school in the world, and it's been listed as one of the top three private schools in the US. It is an amazing community, very, very competitive. And so we were so thrilled when we were able to get in because that was then the next step of our educational journey.
So, when you were a student, did you ever imagine that you would run such a successful business?
Definitely not. It wasn't something that I foresaw at all. I thought that I would do an MFA after graduating from Columbia in creative writing. This is back when I was in high school or middle school. I knew for a long time that I wanted to study creative writing at Columbia University. That was my dream for a very long time, but I ended up doing that. And I also ended up studying business management there. I was a member of this program they have called the Special Concentration in Business Management, where you apply and they take about 40 undergraduates to take the Columbia Business School graduate classes, which was a wonderful experience. And it was really all throughout my later years of high school. And then I took a gap year between high school and college. After I was accepted to Columbia, I deferred my enrollment. I spent a lot of time building my IB education, and then I studied business and entrepreneurship in college as well. And it was really only at that time that I realized what a tremendous impact we could potentially have. I feel so wonderfully lucky that I've been able to make my IB education such a smashing success. It really boggles my mind every single day. I feel that it is such a blessing and a privilege to get to work with the hundreds of kids that we reach with our company, the incredible families. There's so much about it that I could never have imagined. For instance, one of my Columbia entrepreneurship professors, I took his entrepreneurship graduate class when I was a freshman. There were all the 30-something-year-olds and then little baby Krystle. And he ended up telling me that I became the most successful entrepreneur to ever go through his classes, which just absolutely blew my mind. And it truly gave me a sense of the scale that we were dealing with here. And it was truly such an honor to hear. And a big reason why Columbia nominated me for the Rhodes Scholarship was because of the success of my company and the amounts of people that we were reaching, which again was just one of the best days of my life. It was truly such an honor. I also never could have imagined that I would be mentored by one of my fellow Columbia alumni, who is the founder of Wired magazine. Both he and the entrepreneurship professor I mentioned before are now members of our board of advisors. Again, just absolutely something that makes me staggered every single day that I think about it. And I also get to work with some truly incredible families where the parents are CEOs of household name brands or famous directors, or the kids are TikTok influencers with 3 million followers and all sorts of different kinds of exciting careers themselves. Disney Channel star DM'd me on Instagram after watching my YouTube videos and asked me to edit his college application essays. It's truly been such a wonderful journey, and I don't think I ever could have imagined it even 10 years ago.
Yeah, must be hard to imagine this kind of business with such a success. So, how did it feel like whenever you were studying business at the Columbia Business School?
Well, it was really a wonderful experience. I highly recommend that program that they offer, the Special Concentration in Business Management. It's like a little mini Wharton program. Everyone knows Wharton over at UPenn for being very well known for business. And then also this program at Columbia. It's wonderful if you don't necessarily want to do a fully fledged MBA, because you can get it done in just 2 years, really, as a student there, and it teaches you so much. So I really enjoyed it. It was a fantastic experience. The professors were very, very knowledgeable, and we learned a great deal about things like strategy formulation, even things like financial accounting. My marketing professor had actually, if you know the candy Laffy Taffy, she was the one who came up with the name for it. And nowadays that is, a Halloween staple that everybody knows, at least here in the States. And so it truly felt like walking on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you study business and then you have a successful business, it must be a wonderful feeling to have.
Yes, I definitely recommend studying business to anyone, no matter what you want to do, it can always help.
So, if there's a student who comes to you who is planning to attend a school like OHS or an Ivy League university like Columbia University, what would be one suggestion you would give them?
Well, I would definitely tell them, reach out to me and we will bring them on board as a My IB Education student, because that's what we specialize in. I help so many students to apply to these schools every single year. With the Stanford Online High School, all my students get in. We have a 100% acceptance rate, or very close to it, every single year. For the Ivy Leagues and Stanford, I was mentioning earlier that our students have really, really high, just absolutely skyrocketed acceptance rates. And those are all available on our website, myiveducation.org, for anyone who wants to check them out. They are truly very, very high, and we are so proud of our students and so impressed by their achievements every single day. And the reason that we get our students in at these rates is because we help them and specialize in helping them to win national and international awards and boost up their resumes no matter what they're interested in. We help them to really become the best in the nation, if not the world, at their specific area of interest. And that's why families come to us, because they know we get the job done. We make sure that they are truly going to be the cream of the crop, and we put in a lot of really detailed, individualized work and mentorship to get them to that point. So you really want to be the best out there at whatever it is that you're doing, and absolutely come to us and we'll help you get to that point.
Yeah, so it must be a pleasure to teach students and then get them accepted into the dream schools. And
Mhm.
probably a great suggestion. So, how did you come up with the idea to start the business, My IB Education?
Well, when I was around 15 years old, my mom and co-founder, she came into the room and said, "We should start a school." And she had been homeschooling my sister and me for almost 10 years at that point, and she had really lived the parent perspective, I lived the student perspective, and she thought we should start a school where well, when you're online schooled or homeschooled, you're getting the best education out there because it's not limited by the instructors who are within driving distance of you, but it can get a little bit lonely at times. And so she proposed a system where the students would be able to each have their own differentiated online learning experience. But then on top of that, it would be that in-person facility where everyone could have that social interaction. And I was still in high school at the time, so of course we couldn't start it just then, but we began brainstorming and planning and deciding everything that we wanted to do. And so I ended up taking a gap year before I started at Columbia, and we started really building the scaffolding. But we decided that we would start building our clientele and some just level of brand recognition by helping people online worldwide so that we could get people to know about what we were offering. We would offer college counseling, academic consulting, homeschool consulting, working with parents of gifted children. And it turned out that families liked that so much and the demand for it was so high that we decided we could help more people all around the world, not just limited by our geographic location. And so we went full throttle ahead with that, and the rest has been history.
Was there anyone who inspired you to create this business?
Oh, I would definitely say my mother. She has been such a guiding light this whole time, and having her as my co-founder has been an incredible experience. She is truly an inspiration in how she really had to innovate my sisters and my personalized education when we were young, because online learning was just barely starting to be anything that was on people's minds at all. She would tell people we were online schooled, and they would look at her like she had another head. It was just not a concept back in the early 2000s. And so I am impressed every single day by her creative problem solving. And that is something that she still pulls out every single day in our business to solve new things that pop up and any kinds of questions that we may have. She always has a way of looking at something outside of the box and seeing a problem from under, over, sideways, and really coming up with so many brilliant ideas and suggestions. And one of my favorite parts of every day is brainstorming with her about where we want to go next with my IB education or how we can help our students even more.
Yeah, that must be great to have a mother like that who could help with a business when there are problems and who helped you during your educational journey.
Yes, I'm so, so lucky.
Yeah. So, if someone asked you for advice on creating a successful business like My Ivy Education, what would you recommend doing?
Well, first and foremost, this is not the only thing that matters, but it is the prerequisite to everything else. You really have to believe in yourself and you have to have that attitude that you can do this, because something like 90 or 95% of businesses fail in their first 5 years. And a big part of that is because people don't know how to bounce back from failure. Basically, anything that you start, it's going to be very difficult to make it an instant success. So, whether it's weeks, months, or even years of trying to break even, much less turn a profit, you really have to have that grit and continue on through mistakes, through failures, trial and error. And then once you are able to really maintain that positive attitude, that is what's going to give you the confidence to speak with experts in your field, bring on board members, team members, and get some great talent for your company. That's going to give you that purpose and drive, knowing that the service you want to bring to your clients is stronger and more of a force than any issues that you may run into or obstacles that you have to overcome. And it will also enable you to bring on some wonderful people onto your team, like I was saying before. but that is one of the most difficult parts of the process, hiring and finding really good talent. You do not want to just glaze over that part. You really want to spend a lot of time making sure that your team members are people who will uphold your mission and that you'll be able to delegate to. This is something that I'm always still working on myself. But it is so important to have really strong team members whom you can pass on some responsibilities to, and then you allow them the space to work their own magic and really prove the reason why you brought them on board so that you're able to focus as the founder on the most important aspects that really require your specific talents and abilities.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. Never giving up and also finding a good team is very important. So how do you feel about the evolution of my IB education? Is there anything that surprises you?
That's a great question. I think one thing that perhaps began to surprise us was simply when we learned how differentiated our services truly were. I personally, as a student, I did all my applications myself when I was applying to college, when I was applying to the Stanford Online High School. We did not know of anyone who could support us in this process, who could really layer and combine all the different facets of what made my sister and me who we were and really enable us to tell our unique stories. And that is why we started my IB education, because we personally couldn't find anyone to help from our background who had been there and done that and been successful at it in this time when college applications and private school applications are just through the roof in terms of competitiveness. And nowadays, we have many clients who come to us from other different platforms and firms that purport to do similar things. But from what we have learned from these clients, even though these other companies they charge 3 times as much as we do, they are not delivering anywhere near the level of personalization in the services that we offer. We actually found this out fairly recently, and it truly shocked me to my core because I would have thought that, we were one of a few people doing what we do, but it turns out we are by far and away the only ones who offer any sort of really working with the students to apply to the contests or different kinds of opportunities, awards that we help them to really put their best foot forward for. And we found out that other companies were simply kind of telling students much more generic advice. And it truly shocked me that the prices that they charge were what they were for essentially what you can find easily on the internet. And so it surprised me to know that we were truly delivering such a unique service. And it made me very happy that we can help so many students and excited to continue communicating that to people out there and refining our modes of communication with everyone in our audiences, whether you found us on YouTube or TikTok or our website or blog, what have it, or even through this interview. I definitely want to let people know nowadays what really sets us apart, and it is that level of personalization and guiding students through executing every step of the process, not just recommending to them that they do XYZ, but holding their hand through the whole process as people who successfully did it myself or my team members accomplished it themselves in this time when it is as crazy competitive as it is right now.
Yeah, must be a great feeling to know that your business is, as of now, the only business which offers this kind of teaching and consulting.
Definitely.
Thank you so much for your time and consideration to do this interview.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure, and it was so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.